G'day everyone and welcome to Tuesday Night Live, the show where we ask all the big questions but don't take ourselves too seriously. My name's Andrew Sennett. Let me introduce the Macaulay Culkin of the Midwest, my co-host and conversation partner Ryan. Hey Ryan, how's it going?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Oh, I'm not too foul,
That's good.
Have people pointed out to you how much you look like Macaulay Culkin?
All my life? Yes.
Really?
Yeah. I have signed autographs.
As Macaulay Culkin?
Yeah, people thinking that I was the kid from Home Alone.
How awesome. Can we get the graphic up? I want to actually make it clear to everyone how much you look like Macaulay Culkin, even today. I can't tell those two apart. I tell you what I do notice though. I noticed that you've got some red nail polish going on there. That's lovely, Ryan.
Oh yeah, but Macaulay doesn't seem to be wearing anything.
No. He's looking a bit scraggly, but yeah, you guys look just like it's unbelievable. Are the eyes the same colour?
I don't know.
Yeah, he's just like a slightly more drug-addled and worn-out version of you.
Maybe that's what the showbiz does to you. Maybe that will be me after this show.
You end of next year. You watch this space.
We'll do another comparison at the end of the year and see where it goes.
Yeah. Well, welcome everyone to the show tonight. Welcome Macaulay. It's always great to have a star with us, drawing people in. If you are watching on YouTube, please do all those YouTubey kind of things, like, subscribe, whack that notification bell, share, make a comment. All of that helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you're here through our Facebook community, welcome back. This show is all about a conversation. We're going to share real-life encounters with Jesus and big questions about life, God, the universe, and everything. And the way to make this show really work is if you get involved. So please do add the comments or ask a question. And if you add the hashtag mailbag, we'll take notice and include it as part of our conversation as well. But enough of that, let's get the show on the road. Okay, tonight's topic is kind of a bit strange, but it's about being afraid and fear. And so we thought we'd start with the question, what are you afraid of? So what are you scared of, Ryan?
I'm not very good with heights and I'm not very good with enclosed spaces.
Really?
I get a little bit panicky when I can't move. And
okay.
I know I should be allowed to.
Yeah, so you don't go caving or anything like that?
Oh, no. If I went caving, I'd definitely freak.
Okay, you'd freak out. I remember one of my favouriteest memories was going caving and lying in a cave, and I'm lying down and the roof of the cave is like just that far, like just in front of my nose, and then we just turned all our lights off. And it was this oppressive black. It was unbelievable. It was so cool.
No.
But not for you?
It'd be okay. It's the problem of when you get stuck and I can always feel the panic setting in.
Yep.
And it's the same with heights. Like if I'm fine if I know I'm secure.
Right.
But if I know that it's on me to hold on.
I do get that little kind of gut clench in the very low gut. I think my testes start to reascend when you're in a really high building and you're right next to a window. Yeah, I feel that. I'm not terribly scared of heights, but I do. Yeah, I understand that. I've got a little bit of a fear of spiders.
Yeah.
I once had a massive dinner plate sized huntsman drop down onto my bare back and run along my back. I'm not ashamed to admit that I squealed like a little baby.
Yeah, spiders are not great. I don't like needles either very much.
Really?
Yeah, there's something about it.
They're just a thing.
It's definitely an irrational thing because I know it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
But I still get quite flushed.
Right.
Anyway.
Okay.
Are you okay with needles?
Yeah, sure, fine. I mean, when I was a kid, they hurt, and that was the only issue with them. But yeah, I once stuck a needle all the way through my hand. One of those, a really thick gauge needle at work. I was using it to take gas out of something, and I dropped it. Not
out of curiosity, right? Okay.
No. I was using it to pull gas out of it. I was doing an experiment. No, I wasn't, injecting drugs. This was a massive syringe and a really, really thick needle. And you drop something, you kind of automatically just go to catch it.
Oh yeah.
And so it dropped, and I went to catch it, and it fell just like that, point up on the bench, and my hand just came straight down and went straight through my hand. And the whole thing was stuck all the way through my hand like that. And I remember I just looked at it and went, hey, look at that.
Do you have a scar or anything?
No, it just went straight through and came straight out.
Ugh.
It was all good.
The Brit from Oz wants to know what's on your shirt tonight.
Oh, right. Well, the topic today was fear, and I thought I'd get the most fearful shirt I have. This, for me, is basically springtime in Australia. Ever since I was a kid, is getting bombed by magpies. They're an object of fear.
Right. Do you fear them? I
am a little afraid.
Do you go outside with your bike helmet on?
I don't, but I have been. I have had blood drawn before. I've had one hit my head and cut my scalp.
Okay.
So it's
not good.
It's a warranted fear, I feel like, and so I feel like that whole kind of "you right, mate" is Get
into it. All right. Well, I've got a couple of I've got a quiz for you. I think I'm going to pitch you against our tech team. So you can say hi, tech team.
Hello.
There you go. Don't know if you can hear them, but so I've got about 10 different kind of phobias for you to see if you can figure out what they are.
Let's see how many we can get through before we die of boredom.
Yes, that's right. Well, we can go through.
Yeah.
Right, so I've started off pretty easy, but I'll see if I can do a race. Maybe you can go first. I don't know. We'll see what happens. So the first one is arachnophobia.
Spiders.
Right. I thought that might be a fear of those drying racks.
No, arachnophobia is fear of spiders.
Okay.
Autophobia.
Well, that's a fear of cars.
Automatic cars.
It's not automobile phobia.
Right. No.
Nothing?
A fear of faces.
Knowing your Greek would be helpful in this situation.
Fear of the self.
Fear of being alone.
Okay.
Oh, rip.
But yeah, that same idea. All right, next one is hemophobia.
Yeah, it's a fear of He-Man.
Nah! No, not many people will get that reference.
Yeah, I didn't get that reference.
What? Oh!
Nah.
Did I know that? Oh, okay, whatever.
I assume that was kind of Skeletor.
Yeah, Skeletor.
Yeah.
That was my impression.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Anything? Hemo?
Blood.
Blood. Fear of blood. Maybe people in the comments can tell us their favourite phobias that they know of.
Yep.
Dendrophobia. This one's a fun one.
Fear of dandruff.
I was going to say that.
No, not fear of dandruff.
Fear of trees.
Fear of trees. Correct. I don't know if I'm going to say this. Ophidiophobia?
Ophidiophobia. I have no idea. I'm lost. Fear of octopuses?
No, what's my clue? What's
fear
his name?
of the Bengals.
No, what's his name? Raiders of the Lost Ark. What's his name? Harrison Ford?
Yeah. Indiana Jones.
Oh, he has this fear.
Oh, snakes.
Yeah, it's a fear of snakes.
There you go.
Yeah. Cacophobia. This one's a great one.
Fear of poo.
Fear of chocolate.
No. What's cacos mean?
Bad.
Bad, but it's the fear of the ugly.
Harsh.
Yeah.
Harsh. That's a very subjective fear.
There's leucophobia.
Yeah. Yeah, well, nobody likes Luke.
It's true. Or Star Wars, maybe.
It's not fear of white blood cells, is it?
No, it's just fear of the colour
white.
white. Fear of the colour white.
Yep.
Apparently people have that. Magerocophobia?
Magerocophobia.
Yeah, no, this is not the fear of magpies.
Right.
No, that would be legitimate. Usually these are irrational.
Yeah, it's not like fear of magicians or something, is it?
No. It's fear of cooking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I guess there'd be a whole lot of blokes out there at uni afraid of cooking.
A lot of people have this one. We've got phobophobia.
Oh, there's nothing to fear but fear itself.
There's fear of fears, or fear of having a phobia. Last one we've got, this is one of my favourite ones, scolionophobia.
Fear of getting scoliosis.
No, every teenager has this one.
Fear of acne.
No. Goodness gracious, man. It's the fear of schools.
All right. Okay.
All right, I wasn't keeping score.
No. I think I won.
You think you both said that at the same time. Alrighty. Well, that's all I had, but I thought some of them were fun.
Yeah.
Particularly the cacophobia.
Yeah. We're doing it in a humorous way, but there is an issue with fear, isn't it? Is there something bigger than your phobias? Are you truly afraid of being alone? Are you afraid of letting everyone down? Are you afraid of major illness? Are you afraid of failure itself, or even of death? What do you do with the things that you are deeply afraid of in your life, that keep you awake at night, that you worry about? Fear of disapproval. How do you put your fears into perspective? Well, it's time for story time with Amelia.
Hey, I'm Amelia. I'm going to read out one of the most well-known miracles of Jesus, as recorded in Luke's biography. The story goes like this. One day, Jesus said to his disciples, "Let us go to the other side of the lake." So they got in a boat and set out. As they sailed, he fell asleep. A squall came down on the lake so that the boat was being swamped and they were in great danger. The disciples went and woke him, saying, "Master, Master, we're going to drown." He got up and rebuked the wind and the raging waters. The storm subsided and all was calm. "Where is your faith?" he asked his disciples.
Thanks, Amelia. You read so well. Well, have you ever been afraid for your life? Have you ever had a moment when you thought to yourself, I might die? Most of the time, our fears are momentary. A near miss in the traffic, and we look back and think, oh, gee, I could have copped it there. And we kind of feel a chill of fear for what might have happened. But what about sustained fear? What about the fear someone feels in a conflict zone, or when you know that a tsunami's coming, or of the zombie apocalypse even? That feeling of deep fear for your life. This is the reality of fear for the disciples. In this story, the waters are in chaos around them. And this isn't kind of a fake fear, it's the real deal. Situations like this are often more frightening for the experts because they know the real danger that they're in. And in the boat are professional fishermen who work these waters for a living. They are deeply frightened because they know that they're about to die. And you can imagine them looking at this carpenter's kid in the back of the boat. He doesn't realise his danger. He's asleep because he doesn't understand that he's about to die. And so his friends wake him up and let him know exactly how afraid he should be. And you can imagine the chaos in the boat and out of the boat as they kind of frantically bail water, as they try and keep the boat upright, as they're just watching themselves torn apart by this storm. What happens when you realise there's nothing you can do and you're going to die? I once found myself completely out of control on my brother's motorbike and heading straight towards a tree. It was only a few seconds, but I clearly remember thinking, this is it. How do you react in a situation like that? Some people give up and they face death calmly. Most of us, though, keep up the panic. The survival instincts keep twitching and we fight to the end because we have a lust for life and we're afraid of dying. And the disciples are a lot like us. They are still in full-on panic mode. They are completely flapping. And then Jesus does this. He rebukes the storm. Naughty storm. Now, I think the word's more general meaning is he commanded the storm to turn, to stop. Imagine you're there on the boat. Imagine your panic and deep fear for your life. And then someone stands up and does this. Be quiet. How would you react to that if you're on the boat? Because we know what happens now, don't we? We know when someone stands up and does this, we know exactly what happens. Absolutely nothing. Maybe you've heard this legendary story of King Canute, the English king who tried to command the tide and failed. It's a ridiculous idea. If you weren't so completely frightened, it would be funny, the spectacle of somebody standing up and commanding the weather. And then you watch, and the whole situation becomes completely calm. What would you think then? How would you react to that? I think we'd be exactly the same as these guys. There would be fear and amazement, shock and awe. Who the hell is this? Their question is a fair one, isn't it? Who is this? The disciples spent all their time with Jesus, and yet at this moment it's as if they don't know him at all. When we think about the power of God, we tend to think of something like, I guess, Batman versus Superman, like the Hulk. Just slightly enhanced humans or aliens who battle the forces of evil and only just win by the skin of their teeth. But Jesus is something entirely different. Jesus is the one who brings order from chaos. Make no mistake, this is the power of the Creator. He controls the elements. And notice he does it effortlessly. With a word, he calms the storm and saves from death. who do you actually think Jesus is? Some nice guy? A good teacher? A fraud? God? That's what these blokes are confronted with. Who is this? But that's not the only question here, because Jesus asks his own question. He asks, where is your faith? Now notice there Jesus' problem. His problem with his disciples isn't that they're gullible and credulous and they'll believe anything. It's that they're faithless and afraid. We often make the mistake of thinking the early followers of Jesus were just gullible people, unlike us who are ready to believe anything. But they weren't. They're just like us. Sure, they were frightened by what was going on, but they didn't just jump to the conclusion that Jesus was God come to earth and standing in the middle of them. The fact is, they didn't know. They were afraid and unaware. They didn't have faith to begin with. Now, faith is a pretty important idea for Jesus and his mates and for us. When we talk about faith today, we tend to think of it as some kind of quality or force inside of us, like I'm a person of faith. And what matters about faith for us is what we feel inside. But to Jesus and his mates, faith was a totally different idea. Faith was about trust, trusting someone or something we found to be trustworthy. And so faith for people in Jesus' time was about its object, about who I was trusting, who I had faith in. And the power of faith isn't inside of me. The power of faith is in what I was trusting. If I had faith or trusted someone who had the power to deliver, that's what gave faith its power. Faith is about its object, not about its subject. And here is the object of faith. It's Jesus. Not some imaginary kind of idea of him, but this man here, right in front of us, calming the storm. The real deal. Who is Jesus here? Well, he's the Creator. God himself walking the earth, the one who commands the elements with a word. Why are the disciples afraid at the end of this story? Why aren't they confident? I mean, this is their friend after all. Shouldn't they be full of self-confidence, like he's on our side, he's with us? But they're afraid, they're terrified. Because their worldview is too small to accommodate Jesus, to accommodate God who commands the elements and walks among them. All of a sudden they're confronted with someone who is so far beyond their expectation, so much more than they thought, and they are terrified, not of the waves anymore, of Jesus. Why is faith the answer to fear? Not because it denies reality and hopes for the best, but because it embraces the reality right in front of us. We refuse to see and acknowledge the God who is there, so instead we choose to live in the fear of chaos, the fear of something bigger than us. Our lives are filled with fear. And the question Jesus asks us is, do you have room inside your worldview for a God who commands all of the elements? Or is your box too small, too feeble, too fragile, too afraid? Ryan, have you ever been afraid for your life?
I've never had that moment where I've thought this is where I die, but I've definitely, had car crashes or been in, like there was one time where I slid in the rain and I parallel parked on the left-hand side, but I'd spun in such a way that I was facing the opposite direction that I was traveling. Yep. And that whole time I was just panicked.
Yep. I got busted smoking when I was 11 by my parents. I thought I was going to die then.
I once forgot to turn the oven on. Yeah, when Mum came home.
I'm pretty sure that smoking carried the death penalty in our family. So yeah. I do remember when I was a teenager driving with my sister in her car at night, and this is up on the Central Coast, and we were driving along a very dark, just straight country road, and the highway was coming up, and this road kind of had a stop sign at the highway, and you had to stop at the highway, and there was 4 lanes. It was the Pacific Highway. It wasn't like some little road. This was the main highway north from Sydney, and so we're kind of just blasting along this road at 80 to 100 k's or something along this dark country road, and we all know that the highway's coming up, and so we're thinking she's going to slow down in a minute. She's going to slow down. She's going to slow down, and she just doesn't. She just bored straight across that highway, all 4 lanes, completely oblivious, and we were freaking out. Yeah, that was one of those moments where I thought I was going to die.
Yep. and you are totally not in control at all in
Yeah.
that situation.
No. It was, yeah. Yeah.
That's
Oh, it still gives me shivers.
Yeah, no, I've never had any of those moments where
Right.
that thought entered my brain,
Yep.
and there was nothing I could do. But
Yeah.
yeah, had moments where, as you mentioned before, as I look back, I go, yeah, I could have died if I did something differently, or
Yeah.
if I didn't react
Yep.
in that way.
Yep. I wonder how you'd reacted if you were in this boat.
Yeah, I don't know.
Are you much of a boaty kind of guy?
I definitely don't know much about boats. I
Yep.
don't remember which way starboard or.
Oh my goodness! But you're not a Trekkie though, are you?
I'm not a Star
Wars.
Trekkie. Yeah,
Right, 'cause-
they have those
Yeah,
terminologies.
yeah, but Star Wars doesn't.
Star Wars has the cockpit, and then that's all you need to know.
That's it. Yeah, you don't. Yeah.
So I don't remember. I don't know any of the sides.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know anything about boats. No. So I'd probably be just sitting there being like, I don't know what to do. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna
I feel like I wouldn't be oblivious though. I feel like I'd be flapping like everybody else. I would have picked up on the vibe.
Yeah. I feel like I'd be flapping about but being unhelpful
Yeah.
rather than helpful. Like I wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Maybe I wouldn't be like tipping buckets. I'd just be like, trying to oar the boat or something instead. Despite that not being helpful.
I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be sleeping in the back of the boat. I feel like that would not be me.
Yeah, no, I would definitely not be having a snooze.
Yeah. And I
Not
think
the
I just feel like the sense of panic must have been incredible on this boat. And you've got to think there's like 12 or 13 people on this boat, and they are all, apart from one of them, in a complete panic.
Yeah. The fact that they're all veteran sailors.
Well, not all of them, but some of them.
except- well, yeah.
There are other people, but there are certainly at least 4 or so professional fishermen there. So people who are out on the boats every day, and they would have filled everybody else with the same panic they were feeling. Everyone's going, "Isn't this normal?" And they go, "No, this is not normal. This is not normal."
Yeah. Now is the time to panic?
Yeah, now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then to see this happen, what would it be like to suddenly see this person you've been hanging out with do this? I mean, I imagine they've been impressed with Jesus. They've seen miracles that he's done, right? So it's not as if they haven't seen him and been impressed by things he's done, but it feels like this event, this moment, is on another level entirely. You know what I mean? It's one thing to kind of fix a few broken bones, to heal some people, but to command the elements themselves.
Yep. Yeah.
What would that be like?
Yeah, it'd be like even today. Like we have doctors that can do
Yep.
incredible things. We have people that have created amazing technology, and that had happened. We go, wow, that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
awesome. But if that same doctor went, hey, rain, go away, and they sung the song, and then the song and it actually worked,
Yeah.
well, then I'd have a lot of questions. I think.
Yeah.
I
Like what?
Like, what the hell was that?
What was that?
Yeah. What just happened?
Yeah, and I think the thing that really interests me about their reaction, first of all, is that it is not what we would expect. We expect, when we read these stories, we expect these people are gullible. We're 21st century, we've got the scientific method. We're people who are not credulous like this. We're not gullible. We're not easily sucked in. We're more skeptical. And they're easily sucked in by this kind of stuff. Any parlour trick, and they'll ascribe it to the gods. But they weren't like that. They did not jump to that conclusion. So that's what I find interesting about these stories, is that the people in them are more like us than we imagine. We think of them as these kind of ancient, gullible, people who don't know anything. But they are just like us. They're just as skeptical as us. They're just as they don't jump to the conclusion about Jesus. They ask the question, "Who is this?" And they're afraid.
I don't think they'd have any reason to think that someone would be able to do something like this.
Yeah.
Like even if these are the Israelite dudes who've even read Old Testament stories and they've seen and all the miracles that happen in there. There's not many that are like this.
No, it's pretty unique kind of moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever been afraid of Jesus?
been afraid of Jesus.
Yeah, you've been afraid of Jesus.
I don't know if I've ever thought of it. I don't know if I ever think of him, and quiver, kind of thing. There's elements about him that I think I fear.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've ever been afraid of Jesus.
I feel like Christians have got this the doctrine of the Trinity, the idea of the Father, Son, and the Spirit, and so we kind of put all the fearful stuff on the Father. We go, he might be the judgy one, but Jesus, he's the nice one, right? He's the friendly one. He's the mate.
Yeah. Right.
And so we don't tend to think this way of him, that he might be someone that commands the powers that hold us together. I mean, if this guy commands the elements, what else does he command? Does he command my living and breathing? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
This is...
Yeah, well, if he can control the uncontrollable...
Yeah.
From our perspective.
It's like we're in the movie Geostorm. And did anyone actually watch that movie? Did you watch that movie, Geostorm?
No.
Oh, it's one of Gerard Butler's finest accomplishments in cinema.
He has so many.
I know. I used to watch every Steven Seagal movie. I've stopped doing that now. I've managed to get over that compulsion. He just got so bad. And Gerard Butler's a bit the same. You've got to pick and choose with him what you watch. But Geostorm, anyway, the power of the...
Lockie's got a question.
Yep.
Be interested to know what you think. He asks, which is more extremely extraordinary? The parting of the Red Sea in Exodus or the commanding of the weather in this passage?
Yeah, that's a really good question, isn't it? I think this one's actually more extraordinary. I think with the parting of the Red Sea, you can chalk it up to God using normal elements. Like there's a phenomenon that piles the waters up, and so you can say, well, God did it in a fairly particular way at a particular time, but He did something that people have actually observed in partial form before. It was pretty dramatic, but this is like, this feels to me a bit extra.
Yeah, the only other story I can think of off the top of my head is Joshua when he makes the sun stand still for a bit.
Yeah, well, yes. Well, he just holds his hand up. I think God makes the sun stand still.
Yes, sorry.
That's hard to say. Sun stands still.
Sun stands still.
Sun stands still. That's, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Joshua, I think he prays and...
Yep.
Yeah, but this again.
Yeah. There are those moments that just kind of, they're gobsmacking. And so we don't tend to think of Jesus this way, though. We don't tend to think of him in terms of an object of that sense of awe or the fear of this guy is so far beyond me. We tend to think of Jesus as kind of a lot like us. And so this is, I guess, the other aspect of Jesus. He is just like us, and he does identify himself just like us. He becomes like us in every way, and he wants us to know him as a person. And yet he's also this person. Yeah.
Because we've talked a lot about wanting to know the real Jesus.
Yeah.
And either accepting or rejecting him for who he really is.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I meet different people, and different people think differently about Jesus.
Yeah.
And a lot of time, I think in my experience, people think a lot or talk a lot about because we talk about Jesus being fully God and human. And people either seem to have a really focused point on one or the other. Yeah. People really like to only focus or particularly focus on the human side, and then not see see these stories and kind of think about them much.
Yeah.
But then there's people who only think about these stories and don't think about the humanity.
I'm reminded of that famous scene in Talladega Nights. You remember that scene?
Yes, I do.
I feel like I've shown you that scene before.
I prayed a baby Jesus.
Yeah. I like to think of Jesus in a tuxedo T-shirt, singing.
I'm formal, but I like to party.
Yeah. Or singing lead vocals for Leonard Skinner, Hammond. Anyway, yes.
Yeah.
I like to think of Jesus as a ninja, and there is a little bit of that in us, isn't it? That we kind of tend to have our own picture of Jesus and what he's like. And when you encounter people who actually encountered him, when you hear from people who actually walked around with him and saw him, he's very different, I think, to the way we often imagine him. And that's very challenging.
Yeah, I think so. Sorry, I had a question and it's gone from my brain. I apologise.
Oh, you had a question. So
but it's disappeared.
Right.
Into the.
I thought you were asking about the question of Ryan, remember when we were nearly killed by that truck driver? I saw that pass through my comment thread.
Oh yeah, with Lockie. Well, again, that was one where I. So the story is that Lockie and I were. This is out of his old place. We're going from his driveway onto the highway at the red lights, and I just kind of went into one lane and just saw a truck coming at us, probably like 70, 80 kilometers an hour.
Yep.
Coming straight behind us, and it was a red light, and I just had to, slam on the pedal and go into the next lane, and this other truck just rammed right past us through a red light and everything.
He would have just completely mashed you flat.
Yeah, we would have died. But again, that was one where I just only thought afterwards, because I just, in the moment, I just did what I...
And you were a hero. That's awesome. That's a great story.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I didn't make... So it's this thing, right? I didn't make the decision to do, to accelerate or to get out of the way. I just saw it, and then something took over.
It's often it's those worst moments, those moments where you're most in danger, that you never honk your horn.
Yeah. You
never honk on your horn if you're close to death. You are freaking out and doing what you need to do to survive.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, this story does confront us with that picture of Jesus, and I wonder if every one of us today would be in the same position. We would be A, terrified, and B, completely bamboo. We'd be like, who is this? This guy is something different.
Do you think people will be more afraid if you think, depending on what you think of, if you think Jesus is for or against you?
Yeah, maybe. Although these guys, they've been hanging around with him. I mean, he's for them.
Yeah.
Like, they know that, and yet they're still terrified.
Yeah.
So I think, no, I don't think that would make a difference. I think, you see this in the movie sometimes when someone finds out that their bestie has some kind of weird power, and sometimes they react with the la-di-da, but in the more serious movies, they're afraid of them. Because all of a sudden this person who you were close to, who you thought was your friend, you now realise could squash you flat. And that just gives you a bit of fear.
Yeah, and there's a sense in which you realise you don't actually know them.
Yeah.
You go, I thought I knew who you were.
Yeah.
There's this whole other side to you who, so I have to know you more now.
Yeah, that's right.
If I want to trust you again.
I think the fear of Jesus is a rational thing, but it does, for Jesus, expose for them that they don't actually have faith. Because if they trusted him, then they wouldn't need to be afraid. But they don't trust him, and they don't know him now. And so now they're in this position, which is why Jesus asked that question, do you have no faith?
Yeah, so I want to talk about a little bit about that. So do you think that they only didn't have faith because they didn't know this about him yet? Or because they didn't because nothing like this has happened before for them. Yeah. Do you think that if they were in another storm, they would be less panicked? Or do you think...
I don't know. It's an interesting question. This is a question that goes on for them as they walk around with him, is who is he really, and what does it mean to know him? And what does it mean to trust him? I think a real question for them is, what does it mean to have faith? What is he asking of us when he's saying, do you have no faith? Is he asking them to have some magical quality? What's he saying? And I don't know. I wonder if after this moment they would think a little bit differently.
So, do you think, if they just went, Jesus, can you please save us in an unpanicked mode, he wouldn't ask this question? Is that, in terms of what faith looks like, I suppose?
Yep.
There's been a couple of questions already. I might bring one up.
Sure.
So Michael asked a question early on, and it's to do with us, but I think it's the same idea. So if the disciples were afraid because they were faithless, does this mean that we will be less afraid in life if we have more faith?
So if the disciples were afraid because they were faithless, does it mean we'll be less afraid in life if we have more faith? I think I would say yes, but I think this comes about really with what we mean by faith, what faith is. And I think what we need to understand here is we'll be less afraid, not if we have more faith, but if our faith is in someone we know. That is, if they know Jesus, know who Jesus is, and they entrust themselves to him, they will have less fear. It's not about the amount of faith, that is. So this is what I was talking about, I think, before. This idea of faith is not about how much I have inside myself. It's not something I screw myself up and I've got a lot of it and you've only got a little bit, or vice versa. It's actually about who we entrust ourselves to. So I could be, let's say, a very trusting person, and you could be a slightly less trusting person. Let's say I have a lot of faith and you have a little bit of faith. It doesn't make any difference if the thing we're both trusting is untrustworthy. Right, I mean, the amount of faith I have is not going to make any difference. Okay, if I might have 10 times the amount of faith as you, but if the thing we're both trusting is untrustworthy, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So the question is, what do we know about the person here that we're entrusting ourselves to, that we're having faith in? Because then I might have 10 times the amount of faith as you, but it doesn't matter, does it? Because the same person's going to come through for both of us. Okay, so it's not about how much I screw myself up. It's about who I'm entrusting myself to.
Is that why Jesus can say in other passages that the faith the size of a mustard seed can move mountains?
Yeah, that's right, yes.
Okay.
And faith is not measured by the actions we take. So he talks about the widow who puts just a penny, a mite, the tiniest coin in the treasury versus this guy who comes and gives a big gift, Bill Gates versus the beggar. And he says this one is more faithful. She gave all, so it's yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what you've said makes a lot of sense, at least to me.
Yeah.
That it's about who you're putting your trust in, or who you have faith in, rather than who's the subject rather than who's the object rather than the subject.
Yeah. And so if I know it, and in here it's about what I'm trusting. Okay, it's who Jesus is, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's what you know about him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so if I trust him, knowing who he is and what he can do, knowing what he offers, because it's got to be, I'm entrusting him to do something obviously that he's promising me, isn't he? He's saying, I will do this, I will, and so he's implying that they don't trust him to keep them safe. He doesn't trust them, they don't trust him to save them. And that's because they don't know that he is the one who has the power to save them. If you know that, then you trust that a little bit, it'll work. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So they trust Jesus to some degree. You would say.
Well,
but
we all trust each other to some degree, don't we?
Yeah.
But I don't trust you to calm a storm.
No.
I don't trust you to save my life necessarily, do I?
Yeah.
Maybe if we shared a foxhole together, or if we're in war, there might be some circumstances I'd entrust myself to you with.
Yeah.
But there's some things I can't trust you with, aren't they? And there's some things because I know you, I know I can't trust you with. And that's the thing. What do you know about him?
So is part of the problem here is that there are things about Jesus that they just don't know.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah.
Or they haven't.
They don't acknowledge is true,
or believe is true.
Yeah. They don't actually understand it's true. Yeah.
So, in terms of what we think about Jesus, we think a lot about his humanity, and we trust that Jesus, at least maybe, like I think of people that I've had conversations with, they would trust that he's got good intentions for them.
Yep.
Or wants the best for them.
Yep.
But whether or not they believe that he actually has the power to do that.
Well, I wonder if at this point what they know is he has the power of the elements. Okay, so they know he can squash them flat any moment he wants. They know he can reach out and basically stop their heart beating anytime he wants. Because the guy who can command the complexities of the weather and calm it, he can stop the rhythm of your heart like that. And so they know that about him. But what they don't know is if he's for them or not. They don't know that yet, I guess. They don't know how he's going to use his power, in other words. It is a little bit like I hesitate to bring up the movies and put Marvel against DC, but it's like the Hulk in Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
The Hulk is powerful, but you can't trust him. He's powerfully chaotic, and and that's one of those arguments in those movies is are these superheroes using their power for our good or not? And there are plenty of people whose lives are disrupted and even ended by these heroes being heroes. And so I think that's a really good question. It's all very well to say that Jesus is powerful, but what will he use his power for? And that becomes an open question. Who is this then that has this power? And so this question isn't just, oh, this person who has this power, he's obviously God walking the earth. It's who is this person, though, who is God walking the earth? What is he about? What's he for? What's he come to do? I think that's a fair question. If you revealed yourself to be incredibly powerful, you've had the power over my life, I would begin to be afraid of you, I think, and wonder, are you on my side? What are you going to use your power to do? And I think that's an incredible question, isn't it? What will this one who has the power of life and death, the power of the elements, use his power to do? And we're going to ask that question over the next couple of weeks, I think, on the show. Yeah.
I think there's a sense in which Jesus has begun to answer that question in this story already.
Yeah.
For them, the idea of the raging, chaotic seas would have had all these thoughts about the idea of chaos.
Yep.
That's come from the Old Testament.
Yep.
I won't say too much about that, but the fact that Jesus he's taken what's chaotic and he's bringing order to it. I think he's already beginning to just foreshadow what he's here to do, and I think that's at least something that I want to say.
Yep.
That even right now, even though while they're asking this question, there's a sense in which Jesus is giving us a hint to his intentions.
Yep.
He's saying, I'm here to take what is chaotic in our lives and to bring order to it.
Yep.
To undo the chaos and the wrong and the corruption that's here.
Yep. We'll see. Yeah.
We'll have to keep reading, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think we'll give our minds a break for a little bit and go to our toilet break. We've got some memes of the week, which I don't think we've done for a little bit. So enjoy that. All right, welcome back. It's time to get straight into mailbag, and we will begin with our first question from Laura, which is, I thought we cancelled Dr. Seuss Seno. Why is there a Dr. Seuss book behind you?
Yeah, it's...
the places you'll go.
I'm a rebel without a cause, so you can't see him because we're not on full shot, but down here there's other places you'll go. I just thought a bit of solidarity with Dr. Seuss. You know, I'm anti-cancel, so... there we go.
Great. Okay.
I hope none of you are triggered by the places you'll go.
I'm sure we're not gonna, the YouTube video is just gonna stop suddenly.
Yes.
All right, we'll go to the next question from Lachlan. So, is it possible to have a worldview that truly accommodates Jesus in all of his greatness?
I think I get what you're getting at here, Lockie. That is it even possible And are we being a bit hard on the disciples because they couldn't grasp who Jesus was? And I think there's a truth in that it is, I think, hard for all of us. It's hard enough for us to understand each other, isn't it? And to fully comprehend each other and our lives. And sometimes it's hard enough for us to understand ourselves. And so for someone like Jesus, it is just he's so different. He's so much bigger than we know, than we expect. And so perhaps it is a bit harsh with the disciples to say, why didn't they get it? And I think there's something to be said for that. That this is a pretty hard task to stand in front of this guy and watch what he's doing. I don't know what I'd do. I think I'd be more yobbish and idiotic than they were.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a sense in which that's true. I think, though, there is a sense also in which you are able to come to this Jesus. And so even if you can't always grasp everything about him, you can come to him and know him. There are things you can know about him. And so even though I don't really know all of you terribly well, I can come to you and trust you and know you well enough because of the things I know about you.
Great. I hope that answers your question, Lockie. We'll go to the next one, which is from Jen. So does this mean we shouldn't have fear? Didn't Jesus still have fear?
Yeah, he said, does the Bible say perfect love casts out fear?
I think Jen's referencing at least the Garden of Gethsemane, maybe even the God, my God, why have you forsaken me kind of moments.
Yeah. I think that fear comes in different kinds, I guess. And I think that we will always feel fear because fear is a natural response to our circumstances. And so, Ryan, when you're there with the truck bearing down behind you, fear is a good response because fear drives you to do something, to act. And so when fear drives us to take action, to back away from the edge, to move out of the way, that sort of thing, that's actually appropriate. It's part of life. So fear comes in lots of different forms. And so we'll never really be without fear in that sense. There are all sorts of fears that are not only appropriate, they're good. It's right to have them because they actually help to keep us alive and help us with others. But I think this is about that kind of existential fear, that fear for your life, that fear of what might happen to me, that fear of the future, which all of us also have in different forms. We worry about what might happen to us, and we worry about who's in control. We worry because we know we're not in control. We often have an illusion of control, but the kind of the fearful moments of our lives bring us up short and we realise we're not in control. And my life could end at any moment, and I'm not in charge of that. I'm only kind of in charge of some little things. And that can give us a sense of fear of what might happen to us. What should I be afraid of? And also I think that the idea we understand, we just talked about it with Dr. Zeus, the cancel fear, the fear that I might be rejected by everybody around me, if only they knew me properly. Those kinds of fears. And I think what Jesus is saying is you don't need to be afraid in that way because I am in charge, I'm in control. And I'm more in control, let's say, than those other forces. And so you'll be okay.
Yeah, we've got a kind of a follow-up question from Michael. So he asked that the apostles in Acts don't seem to have much fear. Did they know? Like, did they do things like knowing they did things knowing that they could be they could be thrown in prison?
Yeah.
Should that be us today, or were they special?
I think we could do with a little bit of their bravery.
Yeah.
What they weren't afraid of is they weren't afraid of what people might do to them. So they knew that they could be thrown in jail, they could be killed. They were, in fact, killed. Pretty much all of them died drastically and painfully, eventually, over the next couple of decades. And so they did, but they didn't allow that to control their lives. They went on and lived their lives, and they lived knowing that Jesus had risen from the dead. And that was the thing that really, for them, drove away fear. Knowing that idea that this Jesus who died is risen from the dead revolutionised their lives. And so, no, they were no longer afraid. So it was only a few days before that they were desperately afraid and ran away in fear of what people would do to them. And yet within a week or two, here they are, completely unafraid. What's the difference? The difference is the resurrection of Jesus. And so that's and that tells you it's about where the power of how he used his power. He used his power to die for people and to rise from the dead.
Great. Well, I think we only have time for one more question.
Yep.
So we'll get that up now. And that's also from Michael. Michael asks, what does it mean to fear God,
Yep.
like how it says in Proverbs? Maybe you can give us a bit of practical...
Yes, that's one of the famous sayings of the Bible. It says a few times, is the fear of the Lord, the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. That if you want to live a truly wise life, you need to understand that God is the creator and that he's in charge of life and death. And if you understand that, that will make you wise, wise in the way you live, because you'll live knowing that there's a God who's in charge. What does it mean to fear God? It means to know him like that. It means to know that you are not in control of life and death for yourself, that God is. That he's the one who charts your path, if you like. He's the one who raises you up and brings you down. And that your life is in his hands. And so I guess that sense there, it's not being mortally afraid. Most people call that a sense of awe of God, but it is that sense of knowing that he's the one who has the power, not you.
Yeah. And I think there's a sense in which, the way I understand like those proverb passages is, you fear God and compared to what you think about what other people think of you or will do to you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's right. But it's also the ultimate accountability,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yeah.
If there is a God who's in charge, he's the one to whom we're accountable ultimately for our lives.
Yeah. Great. I think that's all we have time for tonight.
Brilliant. We're glad you joined us tonight. Please remember to like, subscribe, click, do the YouTubey stuff. It does make a difference. Keep the questions and comments coming in. We love it. It's fantastic. Have a great week, and we'll see you next Tuesday night.